Do you believe systemic racism exists? Black Americans suffered roughly 250 years of race-based intergenerational chattel slavery, where they were beaten, raped, tortured, cannibalized, and enslaved. Very few black Americans had wealth because of these conditions that were forced upon them. When the 13th Amendment was put in place, which ended race-based intergenerational chattel slavery, it said that indentured servitude and slavery was still acceptable as punishment for crime. Not every state had a prison at the time of the 13th Amendment, but after the 13th Amendment was written into law, every state started investing in prisons. And every state created these laws, which were universally known as the Jim Crow laws, which basically made it illegal to be black. So the United States started rounding up black Americans and enslaving them in the prison system, while at the same time destroying their properties and their wealth. It has been roughly 50 years since the end of the most previous Jim Crow era. White Americans had over a 350-year head start while building their wealth and empires off of the backs of black Americans. Ignoring the fact that black Americans make up 38% of the prison population and only make up 13% of the US population, which is an obvious sign of racial discrimination stemming from the Jim Crow era, black Americans never received reparations, so how are we equal? If you are born black in the United States, you are 48% likely to be born into poverty. If you are born white in the United States, you are 7% likely to be born into poverty. That is systemic. Equality does not exist in the United States. The idea that it does was fabricated in order to hide the fact that systemic racism still exists today. Learn up.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's me, Miss Oba. If today is your first time of coming across my videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my videos. So guys, today we'll be talking about black Americans, how they suffered roughly 250 years in a race base. Let's talk about it. Now, yes, where it gets relatable, even if you are not black. Understanding the history matters because inequality is expensive for everyone. A society that denies education, economy, mobility, and safety to millions of people bleeds talent, innovation, and stability. The US could be whether more peaceful and more innovative if we dismantle the structural barriers born from those 250 years. But that requires truth-telling and action, not just moving on. The criminal justice system disappropriately targets black communities, a direct legacy of post-slavery policy.
Racism is built into the DNA of America. And as long as we turn a blind eye to the pain of those suffering under its oppression, we will never escape those origins. The only safeguard people of color have is the right to a defense, and we won't even give them that. Which means that the promise of civil rights has never been fulfilled. Due to the failure of our justice system, our public defense system in particular, Jim Crow is alive and kicking. Laws that made it illegal for blacks and whites to be buried in the same cemetery. They categorize people into quadroons and octoroons. They punish a black person for seeking medical attention in a white hospital. Some may claim that slavery has ended, but tell that to the inmates who are kept in cages and told that they don't have any rights at all.
Here's the hard truth. The United States doesn't know what to do with black people because it refuses to admit the truth about itself. It's like a man who keeps tripping over the same step in his house, but instead of fixing the step, he blames his shoes. That's how America continues to treat racism. From the auction block to the school-to-prison pipeline, from redlining to mass incarceration, the pattern is clear. Systems with built-in racism. It's not a glitch, but it's the blueprint. And yet every time someone tries to speak the truth, the system covers its ears and cries, "Reverse racism," or "That was a long time ago." Black people have been told for centuries, assimilate, but don't lose your culture. Speak up, but don't make us uncomfortable. Succeed, but don't succeed too much. It's the double bind of being black in America, constantly judged by rules you didn't write in a game that you were never meant to win. And when black people demand justice, not charity, not pity, not slogans, but real justice, America shrinks back in fear. Why? Because justice requires acknowledgement. It requires confessing that racism isn't just history, it's currency, it's capital, it's the invisible scaffolding that still holds everything up, from policing to housing to politics. The truth is, America doesn't know what to do with black people, because doing right by black people would require undoing the myth of American innocence. It would require saying, yes, this country was built on stolen land by stolen labor, and yes, that harm is still happening. And yes, we owe a debt. But instead, we get deflection. We get color blindness. We get a sanitized version of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Juneteenth cookouts without reparations. America wants black excellence, but not black humanity. It wants rhythm and blues, style without struggle. So what do? We keep telling the truth loudly, clearly, unapologetically, because the first step in healing is naming the wound, and America is still in a place that it won't even admit that it's bleeding. Until it does, it will keep stumbling over the same step, tripping over black bodies, black voices, black dreams, blaming everything but itself. But the day is coming when the truth will no longer knock gently. It will kick down the door, and America will finally have to choose: repair the foundation or keep falling.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. Don't come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles. We were hearing 9mm and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle, went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old, couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title Dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank. I numbed it out. I drowned it in alcohol and women. Hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute. But it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken. Now, I've been sober for 4 years, been through more therapy than most folks can stomach, read hundreds of books, and here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident. That is policy. That's centuries of systemic racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor, while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We feed people, we take care of people. No strings, no red tape, no begging for scraps. We take care of our own because the government won't. My dream? A Fights Back chapter in every damn state. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Burn the cage down. build something real in its place. Fred Hampton said, you can jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail the revolution. This is not about shame. This is about responsibility. If you've had the privilege of not being targeted by the system, you've got the duty to help tear it down.